In this video, I'm going to show you the most frequent thing that I work on, serve stroke analysis. And of course, I'm also going to show you how to fix it. And I'm going to show you real live footage. Thank you, Grant, for letting me use your footage, because sometimes I do think it is easier to relate to players of your level.
When we're starting in the loading position, ideally the racket would be all the way up here with the tip of the racket pointing to the sky, just like I have it here. And you're now looking at the side with which he's going to hit the ball. So you see the racket face now parallel to the ground, and the side with which he's going to hit is pointing up to the sky. Now in this position here, getting into the cocking position, the difference becomes even more pronounced, and that is where the biggest issue lies. You're not getting into a proper racket drop. So the side with which he's going to hit the ball is pointing up and to the outside, and mine is just pointing to the side here. And if we're now putting the position on the hands in the racket drop next to the positions when you're making contact, right here, and for me somewhere around there, so shortly before contact, you see a huge difference there in how the racket swings, the hand swings. So that when you're getting into the waiter's tray position, you're not able to pull up, you are pushing forward, as opposed to reaching up and out. This is the cocking position from the back, and we're already seeing that the racket, basically, Grant's racket is already completely squared up to the ball here. This is the racket face, and he's going to bring it up, 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 very straight, very flat, as opposed to leading with the edge here. And you see how long you're holding, ideally, that edge. Still leading with the edge here. And only as you're starting to completely extend on the upswing here, this is where you have your forearm pronation and an internal shoulder rotation. And you don't have that pronation here at all if you have the waiter's tray. Now my racket is fully squared on, but you see the difference in how it traveled as opposed to the waiter's tray here. So the strings were basically from this position on, squared up to the racket, and you're getting more into a pushing motion rather than into a pulling motion. And that is what we want to change.
The most difficult movement in the serve for somebody with a waiter's tray is changing their forearm motion from more of a pushing motion to an upward swing and the pronation of the forearm, and of course the internal shoulder rotation. Of course, when we're talking about fixing the waiter's tray, the wrist pointing up to the sky and the strings pointing up to the sky, when really everything should be dropping down here, we are talking about, of course, using the proper grip. And I know that most coaches will nag you, and I know that a lot of players have tried to use the correct grip and then have given up, and here's why. When you first start to serve and you are trying to serve with a proper grip and you're totally, completely unfamiliar with reaching up above your head, having this pronation and the internal shoulder rotation, this is happening. You have way too much spin because you're not turning your strings up at the point of contact enough to make full-on contact. The ball doesn't go anywhere near the box, and it's really, really frustrating, and it's simply so much easier to just punch forward, to just push forward, having your racket, basically your strings, already squared up to the ball, to the box that you're trying to hit into, and that's where the waiter's tray comes from. So I'm going to break the whole motion down into super, super small little steps. And I would suggest that you film yourself and then frequently keep checking. And I give you the key points that you want to look for to see if you're progressing in the right way. For the first drill, You don't even need a racket. Make sure that you're staying side on. Imagine you're trying to hit the ball over there. One of the things that we do when we have the wrong motion, the waiter's tray is also being completely square up to the court. For me as a right-hander, my left shoulder, my left hip are facing towards the fence, the court. We want to start with the edge of the racket, edge of the hand. The racket simply is an extension of my hand. I want the edge of the racket, the edge of the hand, moving up to my point of contact. I'm reaching up and I'm making contact with the edge of my hand. Once you're feeling that you're moving your hand up, now we're starting to turn the thumb up and out. So as I brought it up before, you see where my thumb was pointing, it was pointing behind me. Now I'm turning it so that I'm starting to high five the fence. I'm serving, leading with the edge. Now I'm high fiving. Do it as slowly. Next progression, racket in your hand, choke up. I'm reaching up, and first I'm just hitting the fence with the edge of the racket because I am leading up to contact point until very, very long with the edge of the racket, and only at the very end am I pronating. Use your thumb as a point of reference. Down and back, and now up and out. Next drill, again, no racket. Very, very slow and small steps. You're lining up sideways as if you were serving, and you can absolutely mimic your full serve motion already, that's fine. But what you're doing is you're only hitting the ball with the edge of your hand. That's it. You guessed it. Next step, choked up racket. Start in a letter L position of your arm. And again, you want to focus on moving your hand up, pulling up here instead of punching forward. And you're still only hitting with the edge of the racket. And that's perfectly fine if that happens, don't worry. Edge of the hand still leads, only that we're now high-fiving up to the ball. Choked up position again. Do it so slowly that you can see what you're doing up above your head. So you want to see when you're making contact that you're turning from leading with the edge to now fully squared up. And you may have to turn your hand a lot more than you think, because again, we don't want this in later stages. That is not enough pronation. Once you're 100% sure that you're not changing the grip mid-swing to go back to your old pushing motion, if you're 100% sure that you're pulling up and out rather than just punching forward, then you can move back. We're still not anywhere close to the baseline. Full grip though. So with all these progressions, we're trying to prevent this. Wrist up to the sky, strings with which you're going to hit, pointing up to the sky. And here's one more little piece that helps you to stay accountable, taking the racket back in the proper way. What you're going to do is you're placing a ball into the throat of your racket. And as you're taking the racket up, you want to keep the ball in the throat of your racket as long as possible. Because if you're getting into the waiter's tray, you're throwing that ball off way too quickly. Look at how Azarenka does it. At any one time that you're looking up, you want to see the strings, the side with which you hit, pointing down. The ball is still in the throat, of course, and the palm of your hand is still facing down, as opposed to flipping open and giving you the tray. Okay, now roll down, but look in what position I am. I'm in the ideal loading position, trophy position. And from here on out, you can now basically add the toss. You are in the position that we've been working on in midcourt all day long, and now you can hit up and out. Once I'm sure I'm doing it right, I'm not throwing the ball off way too quickly. Check, yep. And now I can add the part on that we've been working on pretty much the whole time. And it will still absolutely happen that you're serving a bunch of balls, basically not even touching the net. Absolutely normal. What that means is that you are keeping the proper grip. You're not switching mid-swing because your brain is kind of telling you, oh, this is what we've been doing for 20 years. You keep the right grip. And the only thing that you now have to do is high five the ball more. Okay, let's put it all together. From the baseline, full motion, everything. But remember, this is a process that should take you weeks, if not months. Fixing the waiter's tray on the serve is closely correlated with having a much better racket drop. So if you want to work on your racket drop with a couple more drills, here it is.